I've sold £250 million of services to big tech businesses. When my daughter comes in the morning at 7 o'clock, feeling is nothing like the warmth that I have now.
Andrew Hulbert.
From sacrificing 9 years of his life to his business.
To selling it for 8 figures. Tell us that moment then.
Crikey, the moment is you open your bank account and there's 8 figures in your bank account. It was special.
Take us back to the early years then.
Because smoking at 11, having sex at 13, genuinely was very nearly murdered when I was 15. We just got set up on by 3 guys. I can still see this like scooter bar coming here. Now, had it have hit me on the head, I think I would have died. And it caught my ear and just ripped my ear off. Now I was angry. And I had a moment where I'm like, I'm going to kill him. And the unpopular opinion, but I do believe there are times you need to be unbalanced in entrepreneurship. Whilst someone is paying you a salary, go and do all those things. Go and network 4 times a week. Use ChatGPT in the right way to write content. Create a noise about yourself, a personal brand as they would call it. I can just give one more real tip, and it's only small, but it works. Every time you interact with a customer on the other side, you need to... Wow.
Andrew, welcome to the show. I'm gonna dive in. I can tell with our energy and the vibe already, this is gonna go all around the houses in the best possible way. Yeah. I'm gonna start at the end.
Okay. Yes.
Right, because we will get into, I've no doubt, how you've ended up exiting a company in a very short space of time for 9 figures.
Yeah.
Which is a huge achievement, and obviously massive congratulations. And we definitely want to know how the bloody hell you did that, because we all want to do that one day.
I'm still trying to work it out.
All right,
but
yeah, it's still work out what happened.
It's true. Yeah.
But I'm really interested if we start, because I get this vibe from you that you're quite a deep thinker.
Yeah.
And I know you've sort of said to me that you've been in these recent years quite philosophical, really like questioning around, I guess, the meaning of life. And you were saying there, like, since the exit, you've like been focused on re-engaging your relationship with your wife more and things like that.
Yeah.
This last couple of years, tell me about life after exiting.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I can say for all those founders that are just grinding and trying to get there, I promise when you get your payday and you leave, it is as everything you hope it's going to be.
Really?
It is a magical place.
Tell us that moment then.
Well, crikey, the moment is you open your bank account and there's 8 figures in your bank account, and you're like, actually, this is what I worked for. This is why I sacrificed everything I did. This is why I got up when I did, why I missed my kids, while I broke off with my friends. This was the moment I was waiting for. On the day we did the exit, we had a photographer there. So I have photographs of us all like jumping on each other's back because, yes, I made a decent exit myself, but I had a team of 15 people that we also got 8 figures for that was split between them, the senior management team that had joined on the journey.
Wow. And how did that feel, being able to do that?
Money can create guilt really easily. Yeah. And actually, so when you can look around and go, fuck, it's not just me. They've just paid off their mortgage. They're going on that dream holiday they've always wanted. He can finally buy the car he's been telling me about for all that time. Oh, man. That's so special. And you created it. But look, they worked their ass off for you. You pushed them hard. Sometimes you weren't nice to them because you were really highly strung as an entrepreneur. But that is so special. And you know what? I know it takes a business to sell that. You cannot create that. There's no amount of money you could spend that creates that feeling. And that day where we did it, which is just 2 years ago yesterday, was just so special. And the fact we have a photographer and they're all jumping on my back, and I got them all a Mr. Men book and I wrote in it, and I just wrote a little note about them. So I bought the whole Mr. Men series and Little Miss.
And you allocated each one.
Allocated each one, and then I wrote a note and I was like, oh, this is why you're like this or whatever. And it was just my little way of saying thank you. I don't know what will happen from here. Like, to some degree, it's not my responsibility now. But without you, we couldn't have gone on the journey. So it is.
That's just literally made me feel really emotional.
Yeah,
just
it was.
Hearing that, because that's the moment I guess everybody dreams of, and also there's something which I'm sure you'll go into now about, what is success if it's not shared?
Yes.
And being able to, I'm sure, just the little snapshot you've given us there of the work that goes into it, and for the whole team.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a special thing to be able to do.
And honestly, for anyone who does go through their exit, do get like a photographer or videographer on that day, because it's like your wedding day or whatever. It's going to be another, maybe you'll only do one exit in your life, because maybe it's big enough that you don't need to do it again. So just capture it, because it goes so fast. And it's always congratulations. You're chatting to lawyers. When's the money going to come in? You're all showing each other your bank accounts and stuff. It was special. The thing I did immediately afterwards, that I promised myself I would, I got on the Caledonian Sleeper train to Scotland from King's Cross, and for 2 days I just went on my own just to start the decompression. So I got on the train.
Nobody, just
no, literally just me in a cabin, and I took the train up to Fort William. I hired a car. I drove to the very tip of the Isle of Skye. It pissed it down all day. I drove through the rain right to the tip, turned round and came back again. It took 2 days to do that journey.
And that was always the plan?
Yes, because when I was at uni trying to work it all out, I was listening to an Oasis song. Called Going Nowhere, and the lyric is going nowhere on a train. And I always had this vision when I was really deep in stress that one day I'd just sit looking out the window and nothing mattered. And I had the moment, and it was true. And I just sat there in first class, eating like neeps and tatties on the train, drinking iron brew, literally in first class on my own, just saying, yeah, I fucking done it.
And what was that experience like? Those 2 days?
It was very quiet because I just, apart from my family, I just turned everything else off. I'm like, right, I just need some decompression time. Like, let me be at one with my thoughts, because I haven't been for some time. And it was just magic. Do you know what? It was just looking out the window, sleeping, eating, and just being, literally just being there and accepting that the last 9 years or so was worth it. And that was the moment that you've been aiming for. And also feeling a bit of a responsibility around, right, what's next? So, Andrew, you're having this internal monologue, right? Andrew, you've done it. All the shit you said you were going to do, you've now done. You've got to the exit point. What next? And actually now, what is important to you? So if I go on to that, I'll tell you like around the family stuff. So for me, I'm working class, council estate family background, right? So community and being together, that's what I know. That's what love is. That's what meaningfulness is to me. So all I really wanted to do was just be with my family but actually be with them. Because I used to go to my mum's on a Saturday afternoon quite a lot, and I'd always lay on the floor and fall asleep. And because I was so exhausted, because I pushed myself so hard. And anybody that's running a business will know you start to sacrifice time with your partner, if you have kids, time with your kids. For me, it was like sacrificing my friends, because when they were calling, I live in Oxford, they're in London, they're saying, hey, come out on Friday night in London. I can't. Guys, I'm sorry, you're literally bottom of the queue. I'm not even seeing my kids. There's no way I can see you. So I really deliberately just said, right, I'm going to quiet down on work for a second. I'm just going to be with the kids, and I'm going to be with my wife. And we've been together for 20 years, but actually for 9 of those years, I wasn't really there.
Wow.
And nor was I there, not physically a lot of the time, but then mentally I was always checked out on something else. Yeah. So like the rebuild of that have been so powerful. We've been like 2 years we've been doing that, and it is amazing. Like the reconnection. Many people who start businesses end up going through divorce because they just don't get to that point. And I feel so lucky that I've been able to do it and reconnect.
How have you been reconnecting? What has been?
Well, what time does this? What time does this go out?
All right, we don't need that much detail. No, don't need to go there. But in terms of like, is there intentional practices or exercise or things you do?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'll give you a real example. So when we got the money, we bought a farm in Oxford. So we got a nice big farm out the back now. We both love being outside. My wife, she loves nature and she loves plants and trees and everything. So a normal day now, we have no alarm clock, get up when the kids wake up, take them to school, and then we go for brunch.
Wow.
And like now we've tried most of the places in Oxfordshire for brunch. We're starting to think about where do we go next. But you know what? Just that like 45 minutes of being sat there and just chatting to each other. And it sounds so simple, but making the time to do it. And now I leave my phone in the car.
That's what I was going to say. It's about mentally being present, not just physically being there.
Yes.
That's the difference.
And it really is. And I challenge anybody, leave your phones in the car. Have 45 minutes with each other and just make the time to do it.
Yeah, because if you can't do 45 minutes, when you think about it, what are we doing?
Yeah. But I didn't. For like 9 or so years, I didn't. And I didn't miss a single work call in that time. You know, just so focused on it. And then the other one is money's wonderful, right? But money, all it really does is give you time back, and it makes you make choices differently. And I really mean what I'm about to say. There is nothing better for me now than when my daughter comes in the morning at 7 o'clock, wakes me up, jumps on me, gives me a cuddle for 20 minutes, and my son starts jumping and wrestling because he's a bit younger. I promise you, all of the stuff, I've sold £250 million of services to big tech businesses. The feeling is nothing like the warmth that I have now. And yes, it's because I've got money in the bank, which means I don't need to go to work.
Right.
But genuinely being able to find joy and warmth in that is so special. And I know what I'm like. No one could have convinced me before I started the business that is where my happiness was.
There's so much in that. So I have similar thoughts of a time in my life where people tell me money's not everything, and also like I had a big thing with like my body image and needing to get into the best shape of my life and things like that. And there was two things, like a lot of people in the online space, they focus on when I get my first 10k a month and things like that.
Yeah.
And when I can have abs, and there was two things. I got my first 10k a month and was one of the most loneliest I've ever felt. And I challenged myself to do a bodybuilding competition and stood on stage with the fake tan and the muscles and the abs. And again, I thought this would be the aha moment where I finally feel like best version of me. And I thought internally, I just still feel like Matt. Yeah. It's not like I've become something. It's just, Matt who just overcame a challenge and did something. But you still feel like you internally. Yeah. And what those experiences taught me is basically, it is not about the outcomes. It's about the journey to achieving it. How are you feeling in the moment? Yeah. But really, the interesting thing was, people have been telling me that all along. Yeah. But for me personally, being told it wasn't going to work, I had to do it. Yes. I had to go to that extreme, experience being on that stage with my abs. Yeah. That now I know I don't need to be in that shape to be happy. Yeah. But I needed to do it, and that's to your point, right?
Yeah. And let's just talk about body image for a second. So in the lead up to selling the business when we had our big exit, I woke up one day and decided I was going on a 500 calorie a day diet for 7 months. I lost 9 stone in 7 months.
Holy shit.
Whilst also selling the business at the same time.
What on earth made you do that?
I just woke up and I thought, I'm too fat today. I'm just going to do it.
And you're an extreme.
And I'm an extreme. I am. And look, that's partly what makes me a good entrepreneur.
Of course, yeah.
But also what makes me a terrible person at the same time. Yeah. And look, 150 days straight, 500 calories a day. I ate once a day. I just literally woke up one day and just did it.
Wow.
No Manjaro, no jabs or anything.
Yeah. Willpower.
And then Lad Bible picked up the story and they put it out to their 40 million followers, and then everyone was calling me a fat bastard online, which is so funny as they go through and do it. I got down to a level where my wife is like, actually, I'm not attracted to you at this weight. You are too thin now. And so I put a couple of stone back on because that was an important thing. You know, I don't know what I was trying to prove. It was a bit of a control thing. For anyone who does go and sell a business, when you go through like the due diligence process to get it sold, it's incredibly intense. And sometimes you feel out of control. Right. So it was almost like talking about weight and stuff. It was a way I could control a part of my day. Yeah. And it wasn't healthy. And actually, when I started eating again, my body was rejecting the food and everything because it was very, very extreme. I still didn't get abs either in that time. But,
oh, my gosh.
But yeah, so now I have a much more healthy relationship with food, and my weight is controlled much longer. Much more, but yeah, it was a difficult time. So I also dropped caffeine, carbs, and alcohol all at the same time. So I was just like so intensely focused on it.
That makes a lot of sense when so much of your life is out of control. It's quite a common thing that people turn to what can I control, and they'll do something extreme.
Yes. So with having the farm and stuff, and with my wife, it was just about having something we love together, and the rituals like going for brunch and things. It's just a nice time. So my one learning from getting like the 8-figure payday. It isn't about the money. Money enables you to have some time back, but how you spend that time is the most precious thing. And I really mean it. The warmth of the love is what I just absolutely, above everything else I've ever done. The other thing was my friends. So I went back to my friends. I'm like, hey guys, I'm sorry for the last 5 years or so. I know I haven't been here. And you know what boys are like. They're like, oh, we didn't even notice you weren't here. Like, Hulbert, it's all good.
Here?
Yeah. They're busy with their own lives. I just said, guys, look. Just give me 2 days that we're all together, right? 2 days, and I'll arrange for us to go away somewhere. And I'm not going to pay, because they don't care about the money, by the way. They're actually offended if I try and pay for stuff, because I'm just Hulbert, right? Who cares? So we went in October, 5 of us. We just got on a plane. We went to Napoli, got on a train, went up to Rome, and then flew back. And like they talk about online now, the hiss of the beer on the train as you sit there and you're just together chatting shit like you were 16 years old again, like when we were together originally, is so powerful. And I was able just to completely forget about everything else and all those things I missed out on, almost in that one beer that we had on the train with each other and no one else was there. It was so special. And like, it's just so hard to manufacture those moments. And now I use my organizational skills for good to try and do things like that. So yeah, my biggest learning and everything you can take away. The other one final thing I would say, I did do one knobhead thing. And after I got the big payday, I went to buy an Aston Martin from a showroom. And as I walked in, there was a bright yellow McLaren on the left-hand side with the doors that go up like that. Yeah. I said, it's 100 grand. I was like, I'm going to buy the McLaren. I didn't even test drive the Aston Martin.
Wow.
I just said to them, I'll buy the McLaren. I don't want to, just get it to my house and I'll take it. And I had the McLaren for about 6 months. And I felt like the biggest fraud out there. Honestly, I hated it. And you're driving around and everyone's like waving and saying, well done, mate. And then if you're driving along Shaftesbury Avenue, they'll stand out and take a picture of you in London. And I really didn't like the attention that it was bringing. I'm not a flashy guy, but I had just bought a bright yellow car.
Yeah.
So after 6 months, I sold it. And I made like a 10 grand loss on an immediate basis. And it was just such a lesson to me that, yes, I bought a nice big house, but the house wasn't about showing off. We don't like having people come around, right? It was about the fact that I could walk for 10 minutes out the back of my house, still on my own land, and still not seeing anybody in that time and having that
peace.
Yeah. So whilst it felt, I remember in the showroom, the lady saying, yeah, this is exactly the sort of car you buy if you've just sold a business. And I was like, that's actually not what I'm about.
Yeah. That's somebody else's definition of success.
It was exactly, but it's probably her definition of the type of people that go in there to buy those cars. See, I had it for a while and then I got rid of it. And actually, I use it as a lesson now because happiness is not in that McLaren. I can guarantee you that. And all these people that do drive around these bright, shiny sports cars, most of them can't afford the car they're in anyway, and they're in debt up to their arse because of what's happening. And actually, they're just chasing this false happiness.
Yeah.
Like you're describing about having the perfect body and being on stage.
If you're not happy internally, it's all just a mask you're trying to have.
Yeah. And actually, I prefer the shit cars.
Really?
So I'm in a beat up car today because I love driving into London. No one cares. No one looks at you twice. In the McLaren, I got pulled by the police twice because generally I wear a hoodie and flip flops, right? Brilliant. So they think I'm a drug dealer.
Yeah.
And whilst that may have been my early life, that wasn't really. Early life was very different, but that I just didn't like the attention. And once I got pulled over in Holborn. And the police, they were giving me a hard time. I'd done nothing wrong. They were checking the boot for drugs and stuff. There was nothing there. And then he goes, oh, this has got the doors on it, hasn't it? They come up. He's like, can I have a go at opening and closing the door?
Hell.
I'm like, haven't you got criminals to go and find? That wasn't for me.
No.
I didn't want that experience. And actually, so it's an easy thing to sell. And
Let's take us back to the early years then, because I know very humble beginnings. I know a life where there was knife crime, theft.
Yeah.
If you're happy to, will you just tell us a little bit about that experience?
So look, my family moved to a council estate called Northway in Oxford in the 50s. So my nan and grand moved there in a caravan, and then they had 3 kids, which is my mum and my 2 aunties. Wow. And then eventually they got a council house on the estate. And in the 70s, my grandfather ran the council estate, and he ran all the community hall, and he did all the stuff. Still today, the most well-attended funeral I have ever been to is my grandfather. There was about 250 people there. Wow. Now, he was a guy that had worked incredibly hard, hadn't come from money, ran the community, supported the local orphanage and stuff. And on that day, making me shiver now, on that day, just so many people showed up to show their respects. And it actually isn't about money. He did nothing from a money perspective. 5 nights of the week, he was round the club getting pissed. And that's just normally what they were doing at that time. Why my mum was drinking like orange squash and vodka at 10 years old. So my life, I came from those roots. It was community-based roots. And the one thing I always loved is we always ate together. So on a Sunday, 25 of us would go around to my nan's house in the living room with 4 seats. And we'd all just sit in there and we'd just eat cheap food and we'd just be together. So that's the community part in the background. When I was a kid, I just made bad choices. And I started hanging around with the wrong sort of kids. So smoking at 11, having sex at 13, drinking at 14, 15, because I was 6'3", so I could get served and do all that sort of stuff. Crime, so I was nicking bikes. So I was a really good bike thief. In Oxford, if it wasn't locked up, I would take it, and then I'd spray paint it and sell it at a boot sale or something on the Sunday. Really good form of income, but obviously not very good for people that have lost their bikes.
Not great.
No, and I wouldn't advocate theft for anybody.
That's good to know.
I genuinely was very nearly murdered when I was 15. So I was in South Park in Oxford, which is a nice area. I was with a girlfriend at the time who was also from a rough estate, and we just got set upon by 3 guys. They said, "Do you have a cigarette?" I said, "No, we don't," and they just beat me up. It's as simple as that, completely unprovoked. 2 of them held me back. One of them took the T-bar handle off a scooter and tried to smack me over the head. So I can still see this scooter bar coming here. Now, had it have hit me on the head, I think I would have died. I moved to the side and it caught my ear and just ripped my ear off the side. These 2 guys are holding me and I move to the side, comes down like this. With whatever adrenaline I had, I didn't beat them up. I managed to push them away and get them away and stop the attack with my ear literally hanging off the side of my face. And because of the family mentality, I rang my dad. I didn't call an ambulance. Called my dad. Dad, I'm in trouble. He ran straight up with the car, stack of tea towels, put the ear back on the side of my face, literally, and went up to John Radcliffe in Oxford, and they sewed it back on. Now, I was close. I could have died, very, very seriously. And I can still hear the screams of my girlfriend as like all the blood was coming out the side of my face. About 6 months later, I was fully recovered, but now I was angry, and I started carrying 2 knives. Just one wasn't going to be enough, and my dad sharpened them in the factory that he worked in for me. My mum knew nothing about it. And I was in an under-18 nights club called Fifth Avenue in Oxford, and I saw the guy that had hit me with the scooter handle, and I was still with the same girl. And so I was in the club. I got the knives in there because they were in my shoes, so they hadn't checked under my socks. And I had a red mist moment where I was like, right, he is the guy. She confirmed it. I had 2 sharp knives in my shoes, and I was inside. And I had a moment where I'm like, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to go and stab him through the back of the neck, and I'm actually going to kill him. It went through my head, and I, luckily for me, I just didn't do it.
Why?
Because all that went through my head at the time was, how am I going to prove that he was the guy that hit me 6 months earlier? And if I just go and stab him and kill him, I'm going to be the one that goes to prison, and I'm going to be the one that's going to ruin the rest of my life. Now, to have that clarity at the age of 15 and a half, with everything that had happened and with a weapon, I don't know where it came from. But I had a very sensible thought for a very short period of time, which is, how do you prove he's the guy? So this journey I've been on, there is a few sliding doors moments. I was ready to kill him, and I decided not to. And that is probably the most powerful decision I ever made. And shortly after that is then when GCSEs ended. And then by some absolute miracle, I got into sixth form. And all my mates and everything I just described, that got left behind because they didn't go to sixth form. So then I got into, when I was, year 12 and 13, and now I was with all my white middle class mates who all wanted to go to university, and they all had 2 parents, and they had great aspirations in life, and their parents had paid their mortgages off and all that sort of stuff. Wow. And I got in with the right crowd at 16, but up until that point, it was on and off. Had I have not got into sixth form, I reckon I'd have had a kid at like the age of 17 or so, and my life would have been very, very different. Whether I would have gone on to run a business, I don't know. But I think entrepreneurship's in all of us, and especially if you can sort of bring it out and make it grow. But yeah, that was a real sliding door.
I think it is, because I think entrepreneurship is not really taught at school, is it? So it's hard to know if it is in all of us, because most of us never get to explore it.
I think all of us have the ability that if we want to take an idea and like sell it to someone, I think we can do that. It depends what entrepreneurship means.
Right.
Let me take my dad. My dad worked in a factory for 42 years, right? He was working on the production line and then in management afterwards. But on the weekend, he installed alarms in people's houses, and he used to make wooden dinosaurs that he'd take to boot sales and he'd sell to people, and he'd take stickers to stick the name of the kid on as they bought them. So like this is in the 90s, sort of like early customization. He is an entrepreneur because he has his day job, but he has his side hustles of the other things that he's doing. So I just think that there is part of it that's in us. It's a mindset thing is the other thing. Do you have the right mindset for it? I absolutely do not believe everybody should go and start a business, because that would just be ludicrous and there'd be lots of failure. And look, 8 in 10 businesses fail anyway now. So a lot of people who do try don't quite get there. But if there's a period in your life, which I sort of like this idea of in your 20s, you've come out of apprenticeship, school, university, whatever you've done, you've got a little bit of time to mess around and make some problems and make some errors, see what happens. If you lose all your money, you start again. You probably haven't got that much. Then in your 30s, maybe you're going to get married, maybe you got a partner, maybe you're going to have kids, maybe you got a fucking dog. I don't know what people do. And then so like 30 to 50 nearly, you've got responsibilities. Yeah. But then after 50, you've sort of been through life a little bit. So I think 20s or 50s is a really nice time to do it. I didn't have kids when I started. When I did have kids in the middle of it, it changed my focus a little bit and made me want to exit sooner.
Right.
So yeah, look, don't get me wrong. I don't think everybody can do it, but I just think that the spirit is within everybody. It's just whether or not they can bring it to the fore. And look, let's not go Simon Squibb on the situation and just say everyone should quit their job tomorrow and do it, because we wouldn't have a society if we did.
We'd all be screwed.
we literally would. But if you feel that inner fire and you feel you've got something to prove, then you can do it. So that was early life, and I love that that's my story, and I feel very genuinely honoured that that's my story because I wear it. And the business I went on to run, Pareto, was one of the most social mobility, socially focused led businesses in the entire sector. And all those experiences I'd had early on, it just drove me to create this completely like diverse team of people that would lead the business for us so that we had representation from every background. So in our team of 15 people that had that sweet equity pot of shares I mentioned at the end, there was representation from every marginalized community you could imagine. Wow. And I love this idea that people in the business could look up and any insecurities they had about themselves, they could see at the top and that someone was there with that insecurity as well. There was no ceiling. It was like a balance of gender, men and women. It's an engineering business. We were 50-50 men and women balanced, unheard of in the sector, so that we were trying to make sure we got this balance right. And look, we discussed this just before we came on, but in my family, women were the important ones. If I fucking dared to disrespect women within my entire life, let alone within my family and my aunties, my sisters, my nan, it would be lights out. It would be a big problem for me. I would almost be ostracized from what was happening. Those values around treating women respectfully and the importance that they have. And yes, my mum would cook dinner for my dad every day and he'd come home at 6:30 and he'd eat it. Traditional, like, it'd be meat and 2 veg. He'd always get the biggest pork chop or that sort of thing. Yeah. But after that, he'd have a list of 50, 100 jobs that he had to go and do. Yeah. And on the weekend, he was working because he was trying to provide for the family.
So they were a team.
They were a team unit. My mum had 3 kids and 3 jobs at the same time, trying to make it all balance and work. So all of that mentality about hard work, about working class, about council estate community, is beautiful. And I am so proud that that's what it is. The only other thing I always say to people is, luckily, being from Oxford, my accent's okay. Because if I'd have been from East London or something, it might have given me different life choices. Right. So when I say to people, oh, yeah, I nearly got murdered, they're like, what, you're from Oxford? Yeah. I was like, yeah, murder happens everywhere, right? It's not just within like one location. So, yeah, I love that. And I am very proud to talk about it. And like with my kids, who obviously will grow up middle class because of the situation that they're in, those family values of like being together every Sunday and everything. The biggest problem my family have is on Christmas Day, no one has a house big enough for them all to go to. So like back in the day when I was a kid, we'd go to like 3 different houses on Christmas Day. We're all rammed around the little thing, sat on the little puffy cushion and all that sort of stuff pushed up to the table. But yeah, that's early life.
This episode is sponsored by Dr. Tanya King Mohammed. She is the high ticket woman, the #1 best-selling author of the high ticket method, and one of the most sought after high ticket experts in the game. Basically, if you are an entrepreneur who is serious about scaling their business, you need to grab a copy of her book right now. Literally, I have read it and it is a game changer. It will blow your flipping mind. Tanya is the mentor that the entrepreneurs call once they are finished playing small and are ready to start charging their worth. Working with Tanya is all about creating consistent high ticket sales and doing it in a way where you can create a freedom level income without the constant hustle and grind like a lot of the other mentors bang on about. If you're listening to this show, you already know you're somebody that's meant for more and is willing to go and work for it. So basically, you need to get into Tanya's world. Go and grab a copy of her book right now on Amazon and make sure you give her a cheeky little follow on Instagram. She is at Freedom with Tanya, and she's consistently giving strategies, tips and advice over there for free so you can start charging your worth and actually starting to believe in it.
All right, tell us about the business that you started and why you got into that business. And I think an important thing, just to touch back on what we covered a moment ago, is, you said about entrepreneurship being a mindset. So what was your mindset? What were the traits that enabled you to be successful?
Yeah. If I just give a bit of context, so I ended up going to university, I studied business, and in my second year, I did a graduate scheme in the summer with a little property services business, about £6 million turnover. And I went back to uni and finished my degree, and they took me on full time. So my first job was a graduate role in a tiny little business that did property services. And I just threw myself into it 100%. So I was working a lot of hours, already making early sacrifice. By the age of 24, I was ops director, and I had 250 staff underneath me. I was the youngest in the business by some way, really pissed a lot of people off, as you could imagine, going in and growing up so quickly.
Why was that? What is it about you that meant you did that?
Taking responsibility. You give me something to do. Don't worry about it anymore. I will do it, and I will also over communicate back to you that I've done it. They say give work.
You're the most employable person ever then, which is like, in that sense anyway.
I am, but I hate hierarchy and I hate people telling me I can't do things. And I'm not a good employee. Hence why I had to be an entrepreneur
of course,
in the end.
Yeah. But that one trait is like the most attractive trait.
They say give work to busy people. I was the busy people because say there were 5 account managers and I was already overloaded. Well, they knew I would do it because I just keep working harder and you break eventually. So I was 24, 200 odd staff underneath me, 250 staff, and I was learning my trade.
How did you feel with that responsibility?
I just took it on. My mum and dad had always in their businesses, my mum was in Sainsbury's, like I said, and dad in the factory. If they were given more work, they took it on. They didn't argue.
So you didn't know any different?
No, you didn't ask for pay rises. You were sort of like, I honestly thought, wow, how lucky am I that they're giving me all this responsibility? That was my mindset about it in my early 20s. And I was looking around at my mates who they went to good universities and they went and got good jobs. They had nowhere near the level of responsibility that I did. And I hoped eventually it would lead to something more for me, which luckily it did. So anyway, I got to director. Then we got bought out. So we got this big German business that came in and we literally went from like a 10 million-ish business to an £8 billion business overnight.
Wow. Jesus.
And I did 2 years and it was a very, very difficult 2 years. I could not deal with process. I could not deal with structure.
Because this is a very different business now. On that level.
And you had all these small clients that we were serving as this £10 million business that now we couldn't serve them because we had all these different processes. And I'd seen this big business come in and they just didn't love the business in the way that it was loved before.
Yeah.
Like love and warmth is a really important factor in business, and it can be very cold and hard and like faceless at times, but not for me. Like, if you can create connections with people, that's power.
I've always said from day one, business starts and stops with relationships.
Yeah.
That is it, full stop.
Yeah.
And it's all about relationships. So what you're saying there about love, about warmth,
yeah,
that's how you build great relationships.
And trust, which is what relationships are based on. And trust, as they say, takes years to build and seconds to break. And that is true. And anyway, so I went through this process of being like the king of this small castle to now being nobody.
Yeah.
And, they were trying to look after me and they put me on the future leadership scheme, blah, blah, blah. It just wasn't for me. I couldn't do it. And this is true. I'd gone out for like a Mayfair steak dinner with like the senior guys, really senior team. Got in the cab a little bit drunk with them, looked around and thought, I actually don't know what I'm doing here. I don't like these guys. It was my epiphany moment. I'm like, what, Andrew, why are you wasting your time with these people in here? And no offense to those people, they were just a representation of where I was, but it wasn't for me. So I went back home the next day to Heather, my wife, and said, look, I think I'm just going to go and start this business, because what I can see is these bigger organizations in the sector are not doing it right. They're not treating the staff well. They're not treating the customer well. I think I can do this differently. And I also think I can go back and take a couple of the customers, like the smaller ones from the early days I had. So I can't guarantee that, but I think if I start, I at least have one person to ring on day one to say, hey, I've done this. My wife wasn't particularly on board with the idea because we just had a mortgage and we planned to have kids and all that. And but I said, look, you know me now. We've been together like 10 years or so. I'm going to need to go and do it. So she supported me and she has been so brilliant all the way through. And there have been many hard times when I haven't been there when I should have been. And I did it. And I handed in 3 months' notice. And I said, I am going to start a competitor to your organisation, and I'm probably going to come back for some of the small ones. So I was quite ballsy
really
in the letter, because I was wanting them to put me on gardening leave, but they didn't. They made me work my 3 months' notice. And all I did was go around and tell everyone I was starting this new business. As well as
used it to your advantage.
Company's house, doing the website, setting the bank account up. And so I just spent 3 months doing it, which, look, I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that. Big companies have very expensive lawyers and there's lots of threats and stuff. So do be careful if you're doing that. And luckily for me, literally day one, so it was like August the 8th, 2014. And I mean this, just me and a laptop in my bedroom, no funding, friends, contracts, clients, literally nothing. Like, with maybe probably 7 to 10 grand in the bank. I mean, literally not very much to go on. And I was like, right, here we are, day one. And I just literally started with this laptop, which I still have in a glass case now. Famously, my other famous story is in the morning, I didn't love getting up. So like my wife would go to work and then I'd just lay there in my pants. And I'd sit in my pants on my laptop doing the stuff. So I still have the pants on the day that I started with in the glass box with the laptop. They have been washed. But yeah, I mean, it was that bold. It was just me and a laptop and a concept about how I could do this better. And it all started from there.
Those early months,
Yeah.
would you say, because there's a conversation around hustle culture, there's a conversation about obsession, would you say that A, that was how you were, and B, it's necessary to get to a certain level?
Yeah, so the unpopular opinion, but I do believe there are times you need to be unbalanced in entrepreneurship so that you can do the hustle and do the grind.
I agree.
And it at the right time. Now, trying to keep that up for a very long period of time with no defined exit is almost impossible because your mindset just can't keep going. But there is time for it. Now, yes, I started in my bedroom on my own, but for the last 6 years, I've been networking, I've been winning awards, I've been writing articles, I've been volunteering for the main institute. I had a charity along the side of it as well. So it's not as if I had like nothing that I hadn't already done. And some really good advice for people if they're thinking of starting a business. Whilst someone is paying you a salary, go and do all those things. Go and network 4 times a week. Write to the main, whoever your editors are in the sector. Get to know them. Write articles for them. Use ChatGPT in the right way to write content. Create your social media. Go down the route of awards. Create a noise about yourself, a personal brand, as they would call it. So then on day one, when I started, people knew who I was and this concept that maybe Andrew could run a business. Now, look, I was 26 when I handed my notice in and 27 when I started. So I called Jeff from Bulgari, who was one of my first clients that I had earlier on. And I said, hi, Jeff, mate, I've set up this business. I'd love to have a chat with you about it. And he said, Andrew, I'm on board, but I'm just about to renovate my kitchen and I'm taking 4 weeks off. Now, Jeff was my banker. So when I made that call and he said, yeah, like the idea, but you need to wait for a month, I was like, well, how am I going to pay my mortgage this month? And the doubt sort of sets in. And it's absolutely true. That afternoon, an old client that I used to know, he was like director of the property somewhere. He left that business that he was in. And he said to them, don't hire another person back in. Call Andrew and let him start to deliver services to you. And that's how it started. And that literally that afternoon, it's absolutely true, went into London, got dressed, went into London.
Thankfully.
Yeah, had a meeting with them. And they're like, yeah, great. When can you start? I was like, well, as it happens, I can start tomorrow. So what they were doing is to start with, they were paying me like a consultancy fee, like half a day a day. So I had like a consultancy fee to start. And then so I did that just to get myself off the ground. I finished setting up all the business assets and everything. And then Jeff came back and I went to see Jeff and at the hotel and he's like, yeah, we're ready to do it. And we signed our first couple of £100,000 contract, amazingly managed to get quarterly in advance payment terms. So then we managed to cash flow ourselves because I'd negotiated that. And then quite quickly, Yahoo called us and said, oh, we've heard that you're working with Bulgari and the other American business. Are you interested in what we're doing? Yeah, absolutely. Went over, won the Yahoo contract. And then I think Twitter was the next one. We knew, never delivered to Twitter before, but they were aware of the story. And like the third contract was Twitter. All of a sudden, within about 6 months, I had Bulgari Hotel, I had Yahoo, and I had Twitter. Wow. Now, I'm a phenomenal salesperson, and all you need is those 3 names. Doesn't really matter what services you do for those companies, and then you take that and you grow. And that's what I did. And look, we were about maybe, I don't know, 500,000, 1 million turnover at that stage. Twitter was a 24 grand a year contract. But I could make it sound like it was £1 million
just
in
by
itself.
leveraging.
Yeah. And in 2017, this is before Musk, right? Before everything was going dodgy and bad. It was an amazing place to be. Everybody wanted to be at Twitter. And it was like part of this secret society. And I remember we went over to pitch to them and we were there to sell property services. This is absolutely true. We were there for 3 hours. 2 hours we talked about dogs. It wasn't about engineering services or property. It was about we are like each other. Let's work together.
Building.
Exactly like you said. And Twitter went on to be one of the reasons that we were a success. They were so good to us. And before the changes in the leadership and stuff, they couldn't do enough for us. And it was so kind of them. And we just sold off the back of that and then grew and grew and grew. And after about 5 years, we're about 18, 20 million turnover. And we just had some of the biggest customers in the world. So we picked up with like ASOS and Deliveroo and Netflix and Facebook and started delivering services to like the best properties that existed in the world. And we just started to roll on from there. And but that's how it all started, with that one call to Jeff.
Where did you get the self-belief from? And did you ever doubt yourself, feel imposter syndrome, anything like that?
I honestly don't really know the depth of that question in terms of where the self-belief comes from.
Because it's a big one, right?
Yeah.
The biggest thing I think why a lot of people, obviously there's an element of skill set and talent, but one of the biggest reasons people don't go on to do things anywhere near as successfully as you is that self-belief. They don't have that true, picking up the phone and speaking to people at Twitter, for example.
Yeah. I think when I was younger, I was really good at organising stuff. So like you could rely on me. I could rely on myself. Similarly to what you were saying about when you were getting down into shape, on that day, say you ate more calories or the wrong type of calories, you'd be really hard on yourself, I assume, because you got it wrong. I am in that mindset that I hold myself to a higher account than anyone else ever could.
Where does that come from?
I honestly don't know, because I wasn't competitive in sport. My parents didn't make me out to be a competitive person. I was a very social person when I was a kid. I was out all the time, and it was more about social interactions. I don't know.
So we talk about like nurture versus nature. Is that just a nature thing? Like it's just who you are?
I think so. Okay. And like, if you ask my mum about it, and I've been talking to my mum a lot on reflection recently, and she's like, Andrew, look, from the age of 8, you had a bike and you were out. She's like, I didn't know where you were half the time. As long as you came back before dark, that's all like the SLA was, get back before dark. I honestly don't know. And I think the stories like, nearly getting killed at 15 and stuff, it gives you an inner fire that maybe there is something bigger. Yeah. I'm not spiritual, I'm not religious, but I always felt like I was destined to do something more. I don't know what more was, but also I knew I could trust myself. I knew that I could hold myself to the highest account and never break it. And like the weight loss thing that I mentioned going up, that's exactly an example of that, because I was in control. So for me, it was a nature thing. But my mum and dad didn't bring me up to say, we want you to make a load of money. No. Actually, the opposite. Right. Like it wasn't, my mum and dad were like, you're part of the family unit. Like, so if you are going to earn, you're going to give us some money. Or if you come round, and even after I sold the business, and I was very lucky, right? I did have the day where I got to buy my sisters their houses. I bought my mum and dad their house. I gave my dad £250,000 in cash so he could retire, famously on my quad bike. I went and picked it up. I did all those things to secure everybody else. And I was very fortunate. Even on that day, when I hired a stretched Hummer and took him to the most expensive hotel in Oxford to tell him about it. Get home, Andrew, dishwashing needs doing.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely true.
No way.
Yeah, because that, and my family could.
That is incredible.
That is true. Like, they could not be full of any more love. But I am no more special than my sister, and I'm no more different to my mum or dad or my aunties or my family. Everybody's part of the unit. This is a family collective. And
that's like proper old school tribal principles, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
We all play our part,
yes,
and we win when everybody wins.
Yes, and that is what business is about as well. And I go back to why I gave 20% of the business to that 15 people, because when I win, everybody wins, and the guilt then rolls back down. Yeah, I know, I mean everything I just said there. My mum is so proud, but also, fuck that, Andrew. Out you go. Dog. It's raining, dog needs walking, time to go. And but that keeps you grounded, 100%. And like I say, with my friends as well, my friends, they don't want to hear it. Like actually, and there's no point flashing it around. They're like, who are you trying to impress?
I think it's really important. It's something I've reflected on recently, is having those people in your life. I think a lot of people in like the guru space and so on, they talk about burn the boats, and they talk about distance yourself. You are the average of the 5 people, so get away from all the negative or whatever. And actually, I think there's some truth to that. I think getting around people that you're inspired by, that push you, that motivate you, that have done what you want to do, all those kind of things, that's brilliant. And at the same time, I learned some of my best lessons from one of my best mates who could not give a fuck about earning money. He's just really happy with his wife, his children. He wants, and I get some of the best lessons from hanging around with him. And I think that's kind of like, to your point, of like keeping those grounded roots, irrespective of all the other success. That's fundamental for life.
It is. And actually, I believe a lot of what you have in life makes sense in business as well. And things like trust and relationships, like you say, that works both ways. So look, over a 9-year period, we grew Pareto to about 50 million turnover, about 500 staff, literally from a standing start. Biggest clients in the world, 50 odd award wins. It was just magic, right? And I condense it down into a really short few sentences. It was hard work. But going right back to the end, we got very lucky. We got our payday. We managed to raise $100 million in private equity money for the business. I was able to exit at the age of 37, and that's when the decompression started. And it is just a magic moment when you get to that point. But I had sacrificed and I had worked for it, and my life could have been very different at many stages in my life. And things like my family and my wife and my kids sticking through me in that time is one of the most powerful things.
If you was to break it down into some clear key principles as how you built a business to that scale.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about starting a business and how to make money.
Yeah.
But actually what you created is on such a different scale to what many people ever do.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it secrets, but like
Yeah.
the real stuff we need to know.
Yeah.
What got you there?
The real crux is that we were going on a journey. So I was your charismatic founder that was the captain of the ship. And I was almost like, right, hey, Twitter, Netflix, ASOS, Deliveroo. Let me just take a step back. You need a differentiator, right? So in the sector I'm in, there's 125,000 service providers. That is true. It's a £100 billion a year sector. There's space for everybody. What I found was the big businesses were old school. They've been doing things a certain old way for a long time. ESG and social mobility and diversity and promoting marginalised people had not been tested as a go-to-market strategy. Because of my upbringing and my background and my beliefs, that was what we sold. So yes, we were here to look after your property, but look at this. And by the way, this isn't bullshit. Here's the 15 people that are making sure this is real. Cut us in half and diversity runs through our core. And that was all of everything that was important to us. That was the story, right? There's this 27-year-old kid. He's left big business because he hates it. He's going on a journey. He's bringing big brands with him. And by the way, he has a huge social heart and he's delivered 150 different initiatives, which is true. And by the way, you can come into that. You can support that. Be part of his journey.
That's huge.
I sold, and it's true, I sold £250 million of services in 9 years personally. Absolutely true. And that's it. And but it was all because I could take people on a journey.
Talks about that speaks to the art of storytelling and being able to inspire and have a clear vision, right?
Yeah. And actually, I didn't really know where we were going.
Okay.
But I had this phrase, and funnily enough, someone picked up on it a couple of weeks ago. We're only just getting started. So even when we got to like 20 million, we're only just getting started.
So that was like part of the ethos running through it is there's always so much more to come.
You haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah,
You're impressed with this. Watch where we're going to go next. And like that just worked. And we hit the market in a time where big clients, especially tech, they were becoming more like, well, if I say it, more woke themselves, right? They were caring about this sort of stuff more. And the bigger businesses, they just weren't ready for it. And then you had this annoying little contractor over here that was us saying, hey, actually, we are that. We are actually, we're not just that. We are probably 50 years ahead of these guys. Come and be part of our journey. And it was just right place, right story, right time. If you can create this journey mentality and the story mentality, that's how you get big businesses on board. And, like one of the biggest deals I signed was £35 million deal in a single deal, as well as all the other stuff that we did. Like these people just get on board. Now, look, you need the right accreditations, you need good financials, you need good processes. Don't take for granted that you have to work hard to create a business. But you put
the right people.
Yeah, you put a visionary captain of the ship on the front of that and say, hey, come and be part of our journey. It was just gold. And it just worked. And we could outsell anybody. And we got, in 2022, my competition, and this is true, was 300 times our size. So we had to convince them as like a £25 million business versus like a £10 billion business. Why do you choose us? Why do you trust what I'm telling you over these guys? And it was the story and it was the journey.
This episode is sponsored by Laura Robson and Back Pocket Office. Now, let me tell you about this one. Laura is somebody you need in your life. I have got her in my life, and all I can say about her is I don't know how I'd live without her. And it's true. If you're anything like me, you will hate tech. You'll be great at launching and creating the marketing material and delivering on the actual product that you're selling. But when it comes to the back end, making sure it's all automated and it all works, I just can't be bothered. And if you're the same, Laura is the solution. Laura is a systems strategist and she's also a certified launch and funnel specialist. And if you are a service provider, if you're a coach, consultant, any kind of online business that provides some kind of online service, then Laura is there to help sort out all your funnels and systems for you. with over 14 years experience. She's somebody who's going to get you solutions quick. She's easy to speak to, very approachable, and just really friendly and nice, basically. So if you are ready to get your systems and your funnels all sorted for you and work with one of the best in the business, go check out backpocketoffice.co.uk and connect with Laura on socials. The links are literally right below this episode in the show notes. Go click it, and I mean this. Go and do it now. You will not regret it.
Now, you need the accreditations and all the boring stuff. You need that there.
But when it comes down to it, it's the story.
And if I can just give one more real tip, and it's only small, but it works. Every time you interact with a customer on the other side, you need to delight them in some memorable way. Now, famously, it comes back to food. For me, it was donuts. And I mean it. I would, every single time, get custom-made logo donuts with the logo of the person I was meeting, and I'd always get a vegan option and always get a gluten-free option, so that when you went into a room with, say, 5 odd people in a big tender process or a presentation, most people like donuts, didn't meet many that didn't. It excites people when they see their logo, and if you hit a vegan or a gluten-free or a dairy-free, they're thinking, fucking hell, he didn't even know.
But he's thought of me.
He didn't even know that I like donuts, and actually he's already thought of me and I can't eat this and now I've got my own. I cannot tell you how powerful that is. It's so small. And if you
It's huge though, isn't it?
But the key is consistency. Right. You have to do it every time. Now, in a process, we may meet clients 4, 5, 6 times. So you start with the donuts, but then you need to go about what is important to this company. I won't use the brand name, but I sold a contract to a business that was 85% women. And amazingly, by the way, they still had a gender pay gap where men got paid more than women. Wow. Even in that, that's a whole different story. So we did. I took the donuts. It all landed very nicely. They wanted to talk to us again. We went back. They didn't ask for this, but I just said to them in the pitch, I was like, why don't we put a women engineer apprentice into this contract? They were like, well, that's not in the spec. I was like, I know it's not in the spec, but this is 85% women in this organisation. What better environment is a young woman at 16 who's going to be an electrician going to grow up in than this? I was like, I can't think of anything different. They took it away. The CEO of that organisation, this is a massive brand, called me and said, no one's ever spoken to us like this before. Like, this has absolutely blown our mind. And like, this is amazing. Thank you so much. We didn't even know, we were still in the tender process. I put the phone down and I thought, we're probably going to win that one after the CEO had called. And we won the contract. We hired Honey, and Honey's gone on to have an amazing career within the sector. Wow. And she still works for Pareto today. Things like thinking outside of the box. Now, I promise you, respectfully, the 250-something pluses that have been doing it the old school way the whole time and just cared about how many times we were going to check the light bulb a week, they weren't talking about Honey. No. But Honey didn't even exist until I just created that thing. Memorability, going away, and someone going home and going, shit, yeah. Well, maybe eating the donut on the train on the way back. But creating the way for people to think about you after you're gone. And I did other things. Look, respect of women's always featured highly for me in my whole career, and it's done me so well. And I've done about 100 mentorships now. So I've mentored 100 people, tending to be young women, because I'm in a sector where there aren't always trustworthy men, where a woman under 30 can go and be vulnerable to somebody. Sure. So for me, I knew I could trust myself and give a good account. Just on that, what you find is, and this is a massive generalization, young men think they can, and young women think they probably can, but these are the reasons that they also can't. And I worked with a lot of them on confidence. But the one thing I also learned, because I never had a mentor myself, because I was too many ideas already going on, I could see my own vulnerabilities in what they were saying to me as well. So you mentioned about imposter syndrome, about confidence, about being enough and all that, and what was the end goal. I could see it in myself. I wasn't willing to always bring it to the fore, but when they were saying, like, these are the things I'm feeling, I'm like, yeah, I feel it too. I get it. And I am confident, but look at me. I can be all of those things, and I can be confident. Now, I appreciate I'm a 6'3" straight white bloke. When I walk into a room, I'm not being marginalised by anybody for anything. And I can't help that. That's just who I am. But I can go back and help others. Yeah. And I can make sure I make account of that for other people. And that's why I just always would go out of my way to do it. And again, that's how you build trust. That's how you build relationships. And I never broke it. You never break it if you're going to do enough. And the final thing I did one day, I was talking to, this is before I bought my sister's house and stuff. I was talking to her and she said, Andrew, do you know what? I'm struggling. She's like, I haven't got enough money. I'm either this week going to need to not eat, not heat my house, or not buy sanitary towels. This is my sister. And And I was like, fucking hell, Nat, like this isn't right. You know, we're a relatively well-off situation now. This is true. I went to Sainsbury's and I bought 50,000 sanitary towels that afternoon. And then I gave them all away. And I gave my sister some to make sure that she had some to go through. Wow. And then I learned the complexities of sanitary towels, by the way. And you can't just have one type, etc., etc., etc. But it was stuff like that if something got to me, I wasn't just going to do a post on LinkedIn to say, look at me, look about this. No, let's go and make some real change. Let's deliver something that people actually can take away. That's my tip. Do stuff that is real. And another just real practical thing, in Black History Month, we relaunched our blood donation policy. So there is not enough black blood donors in the UK. Sickle cell disease cannot be treated fully enough because we need more black donors to donate so it can treat sickle cell disease. Very specifically, that's what we need to do. So we didn't just wave a flag in Black History Month. We said, hey, all of our staff, regardless of race, you can take 4 times off a year when you go and donate blood, and there's no change to your contract. You can just have the 4 days off. And then I started to donate because I should do, because I'm the leader. Now I've retired, I am one of, if not the biggest blood donor in the world as we sit here today. I donate every 2 weeks and I donate 3 bags. Wow. And each time I donate, it saves 36 lives, often children that are fighting cancer. I am in sort of like the top 0.001% of the world population for donors, if not the top. And these things are powerful, right?
Holy shit, that's huge.
This is very real.
Do you constantly have like no energy because you've given all your blood?
No, because the other tip is, by the way, forget all the special supplements, iron. Iron is your friend. Soft vegetarian iron, 17 to 20 milligrams a day, depending on how big you are. And I'm 6'3" and 18 stone, right? So I'm a big guy. I wish I knew about iron at the start of my entrepreneurial journey. When I started donating every 2 weeks, they do an MOT on you every time you do it. They're like, iron's too low, iron's too low. Wow. So I was taking 25 milligrams of iron for a while. Absolutely buzzing. Literally, I can't sleep as well as I used to because my energy is up. I have to be careful with the coffee as well because otherwise I never go to sleep. So yes, and actually as a weight loss tip, by the way, when you donate, it costs about 500 calories. So like, and look, you're saving lives at the same time.
Win-win.
It is. So all these things you can see, right? Everything's a story, but it's a lasting story and it's real. It's not just create some stupid dance on TikTok and get 1,000 views for it. I don't care. Yeah. I actually care about real demonstrable things that I can go into customers and go, oh, by the way, at ASOS, did you know we did this? Or at Netflix, we did this? Or at Twitter, we did this? That's the power. And actually, it doesn't have to cost you loads of money either. I've got a million stories I could tell you about those things. But
okay, well, let's go to the flip side because you've alluded to it a few times.
Yeah.
What were, on that journey to building, what were some of the worst days? What were some of the hardest moments?
So, like on a very honest level, some of the worst days is when I knew I was missing out on stuff with my family on purpose. And there were days when my wife said, I need you here today, and I didn't go. I went to work instead. I wasn't there for the family. And I had some of those days. And I don't feel happy about those things, that I'm not comfortable that I did that. But I did.
Do you think they were necessary?
At the time I did.
Do you not now? Would you still be where you are?
If I was in the mindset that I was in, you couldn't have convinced me that I was wrong, right? I was right to go and do those things. It's easy with hindsight to look back and go, actually, I would have done this differently. Honestly, I think I needed to do it. I think I needed to be that way. I am just super lucky that Heather was tolerant. And even when we had the kids and she was doing it on her own, and our daughter didn't sleep through the night for about 6 years, right? So every couple of hours, Heather's been woken up through the night. And that is hard, torturous work to do. Yeah. And also, we got it wrong on one occasion. We won a new customer. He was starting a charity, and it was on the South Bank. And basically, he took a building and was renting it out to charities who are artists so they could promote their art. And we helped him out, and we helped to fit the building out. And basically, we got all set up. Anyway, turns out he was a complete fraud. And he ran up £2.4 million of debt, 400k with us. And one day we sent a team member round to the building to see what was going on. And as they walked in, the bailiffs were there and they said everything's shut. And we lost 400k in one day. Overnight. And that comes, for anybody who's ever had a bad debt, it comes straight off your profit. P&L for the year is just gone. Wow. So trust.
How was that?
You really go back and just go, fuck, how did we get that wrong? Where have we got to in our cycle that we are trusting people like this that have no background whatsoever?
But that's interesting. You go straight to solution. I said, like, how was that?
Yes.
And you went, you evaluate.
Yes,
But I think there's a lesson in that. Right? It's not overly emotional. It's not dwelling. It's more, let's be strategic. How can we avoid this happening again?
Exactly that. And this is a thing I used to do. And for anyone that journals, I'm not a big journaler, but most nights I would sit down with a notebook. I put the tech away and I'd write down some of the bad stuff that had happened, and only little things, little mistakes that you'd make. And I'd flick back through some of the other mistakes to try and learn that we wouldn't do them again. I am a believer that entrepreneurs make mistakes all the time, and I did many times. Never big ones like that, but on occasions it happened. And it was just about learning. It's a learning experience. Luckily for us, we had 4 million quid in the bank, so 400,000 of loss. It was a kick in the guts that it happened, but it wasn't going to take us down.
Yeah.
And actually, it would make us stronger because we wouldn't do it again. And it gives me another story to tell,
right.
And actually how we're still trying to do it. And we even on those days, we paid the suppliers that we were due money to for the work that they'd done, even though we knew we weren't getting this money back. Wow. We're trying to do the right thing.
Always doing the right thing.
And actually, you do the right thing enough, and that karma comes back round in a positive way.
Yeah.
So yes, I am a solutions guy. There's no doubt about it.
You have to be.
And when you're growing, in year 7 to 8, we grew 77% in a single year. We went from 18 million to 32 million in one year.
What was that like from a mindset? Because like trying to keep up with that is huge.
I honestly can't remember the entirety of it because you're just in it. Like every minute of every day, you're just in it. But yeah, 18 to 32 million in year 7 to 8, 77% growth.
Jesus Christ.
You are at times holding on by the seat of your pants. You're trying to work out. That is when that team of 15 people that I mentioned, that I handpicked, trusted, and gave equity to, that's when they come into their own.
Right.
Now
that's where you see the real true team players. And
I don't know whether there's a superpower or not. Those 15 people I hired, we didn't lose a single one in 10 years.
Wow.
I never, ever lost a senior manager in 10 years. Hired 15, kept 15 until the deal was done, and then things changed after that. I was able to... Really, when I interviewed people, I didn't care about the CV. Maybe your CV has got you to the table. Let's go and have a coffee. Let's go and have a burger. Let's just go and get to know each other. I was always interested in what are you giving up outside of work to work for me? Because if I call you on a Saturday, which by the way I will because my expectations are high, what are you doing that means you can't talk to me? And who are you going to upset that you can't talk to me? Maybe your kid's at football. I don't know. Your wife does ballet on a Wednesday, or your husband does this, that, or the other. I don't know what it is. But for me, it was just about understanding what the sacrifice was, because I was going to expect them to come on a journey. Now, and I handpicked those 15 people, every single one, eyeball to eyeball, and it worked. And some of those were with us for like 8 years of the journey, and some of them were with us for like 4 years of the journey. But it was perfect.
Do you think that's a crucial skill set for any kind of CEO director, that actually they get really good at hiring and prioritizing finding those right key players?
Yeah, it absolutely is right to wait to find the right person rather than try and get the wrong person in and change them after 6 months. It's so disruptive. A friend of mine, Olu, used to say he was looking for Mrs. Right, not Mrs. Right now. And I believe that in that scenario. When you are hiring senior roles, that when you're not there, you need to trust them to make the same decision that you would. You need to find Mrs. Right, not Mrs. Right now. And you might have to wait a little while to find them. And if that means you have to work a bit harder for 2 or 3 months to get there, then fucking work harder for 2 or 3 months. Because I promise, when they are making that decision for you and you're not in the room, that is when it repays you 100 times over. And I was very lucky. I got it right 15 times in a row. That was lucky.
That's unheard of, right?
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah. And in the sector average for turnover in our sector was like 60%. Wow. So like we were very good at keeping people on board.
It speaks to the idea of hire slow, fire fast. It's that thing, isn't it? Is take your time.
Yeah, you've done this before. This is exactly right. The other, Deliveroo was an early supporter of ours that we worked with. On their wall, it said, "Give a shit." And so we like this idea of a swear word. So we changed it to "Don't employ dickheads."
Yeah, I love it.
So and people have written about this about us before. In an interview, if the person came across as a dickhead, we would say, "We don't employ dickheads. This person isn't for us." And we made this verb a Pareto person. So like we made this cultural thing that, were you going to be of our vibe? Were you going to be like us? And actually, then if anyone then was being a dickhead, you'd be like, "Come on, mate, this isn't what it's all about."
Yeah.
And you could
brings everybody back in check.
It does, and actually, it holds everyone to account, even me, because yes, I was at the top, but they could literally say, "Andrew, catch yourself for a second. This isn't right." And the senior management team, I had a great guy called Colin who wonderfully was a cruise ship dancer for 25 years before he came into our team, brought a completely different level to customer service that I'd ever seen before, and had the best fake smile because he used to stand there at dinner and have photos with all the people coming in and out every day when he was on the cruise ships. He was the one who just could catch me and go, Andrew, enough. Like, actually, let's get back on the focus here. You're not even acting in your own cultural thing that you've set. If you can have a dynamic with your team where they can challenge you back almost on an even keel, it's really powerful and really special. And it means that the entrepreneur can't go off and be too much of an egotistical knobhead because actually they can just focus back on it. But that's about hiring good people. I would absolutely focus on getting the right people rather than just sticking anybody in. And I know as a tired entrepreneur, it's easy just to go, I need someone. Just try a bit harder. It's way worth it.
Andrew, this has been one of the most inspiring conversations. I feel like your energy and your wisdom, I could just talk to you all night and not go to bed.
We need some iron. I'll get you 25 minutes.
We won't. We just won't go to bed. Iron, caffeine, done. What I'm going to do now is just go to some of our kind of standard questions.
Okay,
that I ask every single guest.
Yeah.
So first one is, what is some of the best advice to live by that you've received and why?
Don't let the bastards grind you down.
Yes.
Like 100%. And my business studies teacher when I was 14 told me that. And I have lived by that ever since. Don't let the bastards grind you down. You hold yourself to account. Fuck everybody else. It's all about you.
Okay, flip side, some of the worst advice that might have been well-meaning, but you came to learn that's not the right advice we should get.
Well, yeah, look, when I was starting the business, I had many people tell me that it wasn't going to work and that I couldn't run a business and that they tried to run businesses and it wasn't a success, so therefore I wouldn't be able to do it either. I had one conversation with one specific person. He told me he grew a business to 6 million, then it went bust, and I would never get anywhere near him. I had a coffee with him in Cannon Street. Almost that one conversation is what my motivation was for the next 10 years. Wow. The power of someone saying, I didn't respect him and I didn't really care for his opinion, but I was just like, I can't wait till you hear my story, because actually you're the one that told me I couldn't do it, and I could. So yeah, I think for me, when you go and start a business, and my mum was the same. My mum was nervous about it. She's like, Andrew, I know you'll throw yourself into it, but you don't know if it'll be a success. And you got a mortgage, and you got a wife, and you want kids. So all those things sort of like played into it. But yeah, don't listen to what anyone else says. It's about you, but just be sensible with your plan.
When people listen to shows like this and they hear a guest like you, we naturally will see this person as the expert in the thing they're talking about. We'll maybe potentially put them on a pedestal. And I think it's really important that we remind everybody that we're all human. We're all always going through different challenges. And there's that whole thing, like for every level, there's a new devil and all that kind of stuff.
That's nice.
So based on that,
yeah,
if you're happy to share, what is one challenge you're going through right now and how are you going to overcome it?
So challenge I'm going through right now, and my wife would hold me to account for this. So the last 2 years, I've been back in the family unit, right? So almost every morning I'm there, I wake up with the kids, I take them to school. I'm now saying 2 years later, like I've decompressed a bit and I've loved that time, but now I want to do things like this.
You want to get out.
So now I want to tell the story.
Yeah.
So now you and I are here at 5 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put my kids to sleep tonight.
Right.
So in my own SLA of like looking after my kids and being there, I'm not there. So what does that say about me? And actually said that is a challenge I now have, because I am a genuinely very normal person who can have a conversation with anybody, but I'm now not with my kids.
Yeah.
So that is a challenge I have right now. And also the other one just for me is trying to stay relatable, because you start talking to people about money and I've got 10 houses and this many millions and I make this much each month, blah, 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 blah. It's very easy to forget that life's fucking hard.
Yeah. And
money is hard. And budgets like yesterday, they are hard, right? Don't ever forget that everybody is struggling in their own situations. And it's wonderful that I sleep 9 hours a night and I live in a massive house with a big piece of land out the back. That's not everyone's reality.
Right.
And actually just like, don't forget that that's the case. And I can sometimes just go so overexcited. Look, a couple of weeks ago, I was in a billionaire's house with David Hay and Eamon Holmes bidding on some charity stuff, right? Cool.
Yeah.
Who cares, right? Literally, who cares?
Yeah.
And actually, like, so I can tell that story, but who am I trying to impress? Actually, it's no one to impress, because my family don't care about that stuff. They're like, well, you weren't back in time tonight, and know that we had to put the kids to sleep instead.
How are you navigating that? How are you ensuring? Because I guess what you talk about there is there's a balance to be struck, right?
Yeah. I don't know is the answer, being brutally honest. I'm in it right now, and I'm trying to find out what my balance is. my kids are now at school, so my balance is I'm trying to do stuff between say 9 and 3 in the day. But last couple of weeks, it's award season and black tie season, so I'm out all the time. And what I've been doing is driving home every day afterwards. So it's a 2-hour drive home from London to Oxford. I wake up, I'm knackered. I'm not the best version of myself because I'm tired. And yes, my daughter jumps on me, which I love, but I've only had like 4.5 hours sleep. When I'm used to 9 hours, now I'm not as good as I was before.
Right.
And you catch yourself a bit going back into that old mode that you were in. And I don't love that about myself. So the only way
sometimes we kind of, it's pushing the boundaries again.
Yeah.
Is where we then see how to pull back and
Yes.
where to pull back. You sometimes just have to test it, right?
Yeah, and I think I'm in the testing zone at the moment.
Right.
And but yeah, I also just feel hugely just the other feeling I have, and people who exit will know. I just have this gratitude. Sometimes I'm just out in the field on the quad bike or something, picking berries with the kids to make some jam for breakfast. And I'm just like, man, how did we get to this situation?
I really get that from you. Just being in your presence, I can tell. Yes, you've worked bloody hard, and you've achieved some things that people dream of. I get an energy of gratitude at the core of you.
Yeah, and it's real, and actually that's what I love. And legacy now is about leaving positivity, helping other people, telling the story, being very real with it. I'm not trying to create an Instagram where everyone thinks I have a great life, because there are times. Those 5 nights that I did in a row, I just, for a real story, in the middle of it, I saw the John Lewis Christmas advert where the dad is dancing with his son.
Yeah.
Absolutely cried my eyes out. That was last week. Because I was like, Andrew, why are you going to the third black tie in a row and you're not putting your son to sleep tonight? I was having that conversation with myself whilst I was crying watching the John Lewis advert. So, yeah, look, I'm nothing special. I'm just like everybody else. And I'm just trying to find out where those new boundaries are.
I think you are a bit special, though. I think there's definitely something in you that is rare. Let's put it that way. Okay. Andrew, this has been incredible. If people are hearing about you for the first time and they want to connect with you online, where are the best places? How can they find you?
Yeah. So Instagram, _ Andrew Hulbert is probably my biggest account, or LinkedIn, which is just Andrew Hulbert is my name, and you'll see me on there. Please do reach out. If anybody wants to have a chat, I'm always happy to help. And it's been absolutely fantastic. This has flown by. No idea how long we've been in here.
6 hours.
But I think your energy is amazing as well. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
All right, final question that I ask all guests. What is your personal definition of success?
The moment you don't need money and don't need the chase for money to think that you're going to achieve something better, the moment you can realise it's in front of you right now, that's what success is for me.
Andrew, thank you so much.
Thank you.